Welcome to another episode of Tourmageddon, and I am your host, Oscar, along with...
I'm Kenny.
And today we have very special guests.
I'm Justin.
And might as well go ahead.
I'm Chris.
And we're going to go ahead and actually let you guys introduce yourselves to what you're currently doing
Because we really
right
have
now.
no idea what you do.
Yeah, it's a bit of a...
We sat here and talked for a while. I got no clue. So just go ahead.
All right, let's go ahead. Let's start with...
Chris. Oh, hey, I'm Chris Lighthall.
Yay!
We'll throw in an applause in there.
There's Cannonball.
This is
going
gonna
well.
This is not
Okay.
gonna go well.
So I am currently the lighting and video crew chief for Luke Bryan for Elite Multimedia.
Awesome. And you, sir?
I'm Justin Kitchenman. We're doing last names.
Yeah, you can do it.
Sure.
Unless you're on a list somewhere.
Will
and you
there
don't
be
wanna-
words underneath me when I say this? Will it say like
Yeah,
Justin Kitchenman?
yeah. We'll
Exactly.
we'll roll it out.
And then I'll say like lighting
Yeah.
designer and director for Luke Bryan. We'll say that too.
yeah. We'll scroll it across.
Okay.
I mean, not
Nice little
really,
sound
but
effect.
go ahead.
When do I say that?
You can do it right now.
Oh.
Yeah, and go.
Hi, I'm Justin
And go.
Kitchenman from
And
Luke Bryan,
there we go. What do you do for
lighting director and lighting designer.
That's
I
true.
work with
That's
Chris.
true.
He's my best friend.
Wow.
That's why I'm
my
here.
best friend.
'cause
I think
Chris is
really
here.
Chris works
I
with
should,
you. Because
yeah,
that-
officially I
that's
should
a-
work for him.
No.
No, I think you work
could
with
not
him
be.
because this is
We work together.
a lot of
And I
personality
say work.
right here.
He works.
You
He
what?
works.
Yeah, I've never seen you
I don't know
work.
if he told you, but he's the crew chief of 2 separate crews.
That's true.
The guy literally cannot.
We can get into that later
literally
if you
cannot-
want.
Yeah. Maybe. We'll see how much time we have left.
So from somebody looking in that's not too experienced in the industry, okay, lighting designer.
You saying I'm not experienced in the industry?
No,
I'm
I think he's
definitely
talking
not
for
experienced.
himself.
Yeah, I'm talking.
Yeah, we're talking
Oh, I
Well,
got
third
you.
party.
Well, because you pointed at
I'm
me.
third party.
Okay.
Well, okay, lighting designer.
Crew chief or tech, basically.
Okay,
Yeah. Problem solver.
problems. Okay,
Yeah.
that's what I was gonna ask you next. So technically, your what you do, crew chief, to me sounds like you take care of.
He's human
us-
flex seal is what he is.
Wow.
If you have if you've
that on.
got
This
you got
is
a
fun.
problem,
Now we can say Flex Seal, but I can't use my coffee mug.
That's
I'm
correct.
just trying to get ground rules here.
That's true. Yeah. So
Fires happen, and you're the guy that puts it out.
fires happen. I either put it out or I help people put it out. Yeah.
sometimes he starts them.
I start fires. Usually
No,
unintentionally.
So
He
you guys work
does.
in tandem,
Sometimes
that's
he
what it
starts fires that set rehearsal back by 4 days. What was it? 4 days? You didn't start it.
What fire? We had a fire at rehearsal?
No.
So how long have you guys been actually working?
You guys are
together?
like
I
an
don't
old,
know.
you're like
I
an
don't
old
know.
and married couple at this point.
Sometimes, you know, my head's
So-
down. I don't know what's going
So
on.
here's a
around
good question: How long have you guys
Yeah.
been together on Luke?
I came on at the end of 2015, around July 2015. So, I mean, since then,
me. Yeah.
honestly, since
So guys,
since
so we're-
COVID, time doesn't really make sense to me anymore.
So
So,
almost 10 years.
It is almost 10 years,
Getting
yeah.
close to 10 years.
right?
Just get you
And we've just
wow.
been getting closer and closer.
What anniversary is that? Is that paper? What do you get for 10 years?
A gazebo?
You guys
That's-
should get a
That's a
gazebo.
different set of circumstances.
So bringing this back on track.
just so you know, we're going to be full of inside jokes that nobody's going to get.
That's fine.
But
You know
when
what?
we
It's
watch
great.
this later with our families,
Everybody,
we'll laugh,
yeah,
but they won't.
that's really all we're here for.
This is really just for us.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm
And
gonna-
you.
barely. We'll start at that end of the table.
All right.
Yeah, that's a smart
So yeah, I already figured that one out.
I'm trying.
So
It's so good, buddy.
can I use your nickname?
Yeah,
Is that-
absolutely.
Okay, so
Yeah.
Snooch, Chris Lighthall, known as Snooch. So where'd you grow up? What'd you grow up doing? What'd you want to be when you grow up? Like kind of give me that background.
Born and raised in Huntsville, Alabama. Still live there. From a theater background, both parents very involved in theater. My mother directs acts. My father mostly audio, special effects, things like that. Growing up, I really wanted to be an architect for a long time. I've always enjoyed piecing things together and designing, which I mean, I guess does
Sure.
correlates into
into what we do now. Switched to wanted to be a vet for a long time, you know, and then that required more schooling than I think I was. Well, actually, truthfully, I got the bug to do what I do now around 12 or 13, local theater. When I could start working started working at a local lighting company called Theatrical Lighting Systems, which was in Huntsville, Alabama. I could program the high-end systems LCD controller.
The one with the joystick?
Yeah, the one with the joystick. And then you have to select your IntelliBeams or track spots, Cyberlights. But if you make your adjustment, but if you accidentally selected a second one, it would then clone what you were doing from the first one to the second one. And you have to start over because you can only do one fixture at a time. It's very
Makes sense.
But it is I love that controller. It's very clever.
Well, it's pretty intuitive. I mean, I remember
Yeah, it really
playing around
was.
with them.
It's rack mounted too. I mean, it's a rack mounted controller. So I could do that. So the owner of TLS thought that was neat, and he hired me to sweep floors after high school.
How old? So, yeah, I was gonna say.
So
how old
I
were
started working at TLS when I was 15.
Okay.
So I had to get a work permit and all that. So I would come in I don't know, after school for an hour.
Right.
And then on Saturdays. So I would literally sweep the floor, empty the trash cans. And on Saturdays, once I got done with those things, then I could jump in to help prep and do the things I wanted to do.
Oh,
Okay.
very nice.
Yeah. And then, slowly through time, as I got older and obviously was allowed to go out on shows, went out on a few shows and started reading console manuals and fixture manuals and all those things, and eventually kind of, I guess, became my own tech designer for a long time. Still design some things, but I think nowadays I'm more of a tech guy.
Yeah.
And then that led me to here eventually, yeah.
Well, I think when I first met you, which would have been 11 maybe, I think you were doing a lot of console op and programming at that point.
There was a point where at TLS, I was considered, this is going to sound really arrogant. I was considered too valuable to just go do basic prep stuff.
Not at all.
So I would just sit at my desk, which I finally had a desk. I was very proud of myself. And I was very proud because I was with Hummel and Palmer for a long time. Those crew chiefs were considered when you get a desk, you're a real crew chief. So I had a real desk finally. Wow. And then it became less cool once I got a desk. Anyway, my boss would say, stop coming to Chris with problems. You need to figure it out yourself. Because, I don't know, I like helping people and fixing things if I can.
It's like an innate thing for you.
I think so. Sometimes I try to not be too overbearing with that stuff, but it comes quickly and it can also come out. It can sound like it's this is what you need to do, but I'm really not. I'm just trying to, offer.
Well, because you've already worked the problem in your head, right? So
I try to.
Yeah, so you've already kind of got a roadmap, and you're just trying to impart the direction. Right. I get that. I think there's a lot of good crew chiefs come across that way, though, right? You've kind of already. That's kind of your whole gig is to kind of work the problem and have a plan.
Yeah. Well, and also, you and I both kind of, I think, crested that hill right as our industry was kind of embracing newer technologies.
Yeah.
Computerized consoles. I know it's crazy to say that, but that wasn't really a thing up until, I don't know, I'd say 12 years, 15 years ago, which isn't, a long time, but
no, it's fairly recent.
Yeah. Wow. So a lot of the more established techs and crew chiefs, just that's not what they wanted to do. And to this day, there are still many that, they have no interest in networking or.
Well, I was gonna say it's a almost completely different skill set when you jumped from, 2 400 amp services of Demmers to moving into a couple networking racks,
right?
Sure.
And
or universes of
right, yeah, 12. Exactly.
Yeah.
So in one way, it's gotten simpler, with LED and everything being as efficient as it is, even though it has crept back up to 1,200 watt LED fixture. It's still less. So now that may be simpler, quote unquote, but each fixture is half a universe.
Well, the signal flow got signal flow got more complicated, right? Because it's not as visible anymore. When we were talking analog, it was really point to point kind of signal flow,
right?
And now here's a box that does a whole bunch of stuff and a bunch of things happen in there. Right. Good luck,
right?
So I think I think you're right. That was definitely because I came out of the age of I started on an NSI console with a little LCD display and little
Oh,
rolly
yeah.
wheel, and then it was finally moving into, Martin Case consoles that had that stupid ribbon cable that would always come out, and then, moving into where we are now.
Yeah.
There was definitely a huge change.
I mean, I think when I started, the most complicated thing, so IntelliBeam, Cyberlights, TLS was a huge high-end systems company, so I'm going to say a lot of high-end systems for them. I think one of the more complicated things were like, oh, here's a scroller. Like, this is really, you got to make sure you plug it in a certain order. You can't hot swap them. You got to do all these things because they were just
Constantly updating. Because it would start to stretch out.
Yeah. Oh, tightening a scroller. Yeah, I don't miss those days. I kind of do, actually. Do you ever have to do that?
Tightening down a par can, it's got a scroller on the side. You can't
Oh, yeah.
tighten the par can
Because
down.
they're like, there's only one tightening nut on this. It's going to just start droop
Try
forward.
to get that safety wrapped around the yoke just
pretty
enough
much.
times to hold it up.
Yeah.
Fade to black and just hear.
You can't move them in zero count.
And did you just, the scroll falls off, flies.
Yeah,
This is a whole section that only lighting guys are going to understand.
That's true.
yeah. Old lighting guys.
Yeah.
So
They're coming back.
We talked about Snooch's history. Let's go ahead and talk about yours.
Yeah. I mean, I grew up in kind of like a musical family, I guess to say. Like my dad played music when he was younger, and it was just always a thing. So just inherently, I was just drawn towards music. I didn't really have. I mean, I love tech. I'm not super like involved in it. I don't want to know. I kind of want to know how things work, but I'm not like so involved that I want to understand why
Right.
things work. I'm just like, hey, this does that, and I don't know what it does. I don't know why.
You want to know enough to be able to apply it. Like you want to know, like it's not outside the realm of possibilities.
Yeah, and
like,
it's more of, for me, it's more of a curiosity than it's like I need to know this. Like,
Right.
But anyway, I growing up, I was always drawn to it. When I went to my first concert, I thought, wow, it was really cool. But I remember seeing going to concerts in high school and seeing people before the show climbing up rope ladders to go around the spot and just looking at the rigging and looking at cable picks and PAs and front of house and like, what are all these people doing? Like, who are these people?
right.
So I was kind of always intrigued by that. And then just being in high school and in college and playing in bands and it just kind of gravitated, and just being just a teenager in America and watching MTV every day back when they played music videos and had concert footage and stuff. It was just really just drawn to the industry.
Wow, you are old.
Yeah. No, I am. I am. And it's almost my
They
nap
played
time.
music videos on MTV.
Yeah.
It's not just Teen Mom.
I don't even know what you're talking about. But so I kind of was geared towards that, and as I got into high school, and of course, there's like that pressure on you when you're 16 to like pick the direction of your life. I was like, I don't know what the direction of my life is. Like, I don't really want to work in an office. I don't really want to wear a suit every day. I kind of knew all the things I didn't want to do. And then I went to like 1 year of college, and I failed miserably. It was community college, which is impossible to fail out of. This guy did. I just stopped going.
Well, be good at something.
Give him a cheer.
Yeah.
Here. Yeah, good job, bud.
See that, Dad? People are cheering me.
Well, if you're going to be good at something,
Yeah. Yeah. If you're going to be good at something,
Might as well be
nothing.
sucking.
But then I kind of I grew up around the Philadelphia area,
Okay.
and in Philadelphia there was like some recording studios that had like internship programs, and so I started researching that, and I thought, wow, working in recording studio is kind of cool because I mean I like music, I'm in bands, maybe I can. So then I started kind of thinking like, okay, maybe I'll like towards like becoming like a music producer, if the band thing doesn't work out, which of course it did not. But then that just kind of led me to, so eventually I wound up at this program in Philadelphia, the Art Institute of Philadelphia, which had a program called Music and Video Business. They used to advertise on MTV, speaking of which,
Full circle, baby.
Before the band takes a stage, right, like that whole thing.
Yeah.
So I looked into that, and the benefit of that was it came with a associate's degree. You got a degree out of it. So it made it easier to sell to my parents.
Sure.
Like, okay, well, I'm not in college anymore, but I can get this as a degree, and I can still go be a record producer.
Right.
Plus, there's like, video courses, film, photography. There's the business side of stuff too, so you learn like some management skills. And it wasn't thorough. It wasn't a great education, but it was a broad spectrum
Just kind of
our
shotgun
industry.
blast of.
Yeah. There was one lighting class in there, and it was for basically television production lighting. So it was like this. Of course, I'm going to be a record producer. Actually, I'm going to be a rock star. I don't have to worry about any of this stuff. This is just my backup plan. But then the benefit of that program was if you are engaged enough, the teachers are all working professionals, and they're all looking for interns and just cheap labor.
Yeah.
Right. So it's just basically a cheap labor market that you pay.
Wow, it's full sale of the Northeast.
I hooked up with a guy whose name is Ed Franco out of Philadelphia, and he was an old Clare Brothers guy. Worked for Electric Factory Concerts, which is a big promoter in Philadelphia. I'm sure it's part of Live Nation now.
I was going to say, was that related to the Electric Factory, the venue?
Yes. So the Electric Factory, the venue, was like one of the original rock and roll venues in Philadelphia.
Which I think it's AEG now.
Yeah. But then that original one went away, and then the one that exists now came back in like the mid 90s, early 90s, where they kind of converted and made their own like mid-size venue.
Yeah.
Because there was always like in Philly, there was like the Tower Theater, and then there was like the Spectrum.
Right.
And then, if you were Pink Floyd or Dave Matthews, you could go to the stadium. So Electric Factory Concerts. So he got me some jobs out of college, just being stagehand, just pushing cases, just loading in, loading out, just kind of brutal work for no money, interning for free, doing some things around town, and but just kind of knowing what I knew about the business was like, and it would drive my parents nuts. Like, you're literally going to work, and you have to pay to park, but they don't give you money at all. Like, it's experience. I'm getting paid in experience. Like,
college credit.
You're getting used, right? But just keep my nose to the grindstone and just persisting and just working hard and being.
Moving that a little bit closer to you.
Is this better?
You were right at the.
Did I go over my time?
Yeah.
The red light came on. What's that red light mean?
All you have to do is say reclaiming my time, and it's fine.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes. That's good. When did we start recording?
No,
Go.
it's your fault.
So
no.
You got it in his
you got
head.
me off. But anyway, so an opportunity came up to get an interview at working as a stagehand at the Taj Mahal in Atlantic City, which at the time Atlantic City was, just any major show that came through Philadelphia went to Atlantic City. It
What year was this?
It's like 95.
Okay.
When I went down there for an interview, they sitting at a table and they're like, so we're departmentalized. So you're either audio crew, video crew,
Right.
lighting crew. Well, at the time it was AV. It wasn't really video. And I knew just from doing enough gigs around Philadelphia pushing cases that the lighting crews always had more people working. There's more stuff.
Right.
So I didn't know anything about it. I just said lighting crew. And I said, okay, cool. Well, we'll have our guy call you. And he called me can you run spot up? He run Spotlight. And I was like, oh. He goes, it's yes or no. I was like, yes. So I went down, and I was the bad spot up. I was the guy with the chopper and the iris was.
Oh, that would open up here.
And,
Iris.
And not able to line it up. And
I said fade to black.
Yeah, and luckily, and we also did a lot of like these kind of in-house productions for the Asian community for some reason. It was just a lot of.
I was gonna say it's
Korean shows,
it's very
Japanese
prevalent
shows.
in
It is.
Atlantic City, though.
Yeah, and but huge productions.
Yeah.
Of these people, you could show up, there'd be like 14 synthesizers on stage, and one little Chinese woman singing songs, and the people would be going crazy, and you sit there for 3.5 hours doing these shows, not understanding a word, but just thinking, oh, this is kind of cool. But anyway, so I worked in that environment for about 2 years. Before I got an opportunity to go on the road, and then just went on a small theater show, one truck show, as a stage electrician, plugging in dimmers and running cable and hanging cyber lights and studio colors. But the designer on that show out of the UK, a guy named Pete Kramer, who owns a company called Storm Lighting, kind of took me under his wing, and he had to go off for a couple weeks towards the end of that tour, so he kind of trained me on how to just update positions and run a show. It was on the Hog 2. And it was a single queue stack for the whole show. It was probably 120 queues. I can't remember what it was. It wasn't ridiculous. At the time, it felt like I was in charge of this huge rocket ship. And then the following year, he wasn't going to come back on the tour. He was just going to design it and hand it off. So he's like, hey, I'll just train you to be the LD. And that's really, I just jumped in the seat and started calling spots. It was 2 spotlights. It was, you know, a handful. It was like maybe 36 moving lights and park hands and conventionals. But every day tying into a new theater, and it's just, you know, the routine of it and being on the road. And that was kind of my
How old were you at this point?
Mid-20s, so
Okay.
20, 26.
All right.
But then I did that gig for 3 years. And
right
finally, after 9/11, like a lot of things, ticket sales kind of plummeted off, and then they kind of canceled their tour. And then I just got some other opportunities from people that, you know, come fill in at, you know, do this gig, do that gig. And then just all along the way, it was just wherever I could. You know, I just learned a little bit more about programming, a little bit more about, you know, work with somebody and be like, oh, I didn't know a console did that. Like, you know, fanning timing on like if you hold the pig down on the hog too, you can. You know, it's like, oh wow, that's magic, right? Like, I mean, yeah, I've been doing this for 2.5 years, and I just found this out. And I met some along the way, just some really valuable people in my life that just gave me an opportunity and just gave me knowledge. Just sat with me and were like, you know, I don't take things very seriously until I do. So a lot of like what we do, the banter, is just how we operate. It's just like underneath it all is just a level of seriousness and professionalism, and we're gonna get the job done, and we're gonna do it as best we can. And it's, you know, we strive for quality. Like, we're not ever really satisfied. Up here, it's just like we're just mocking each other and mocking ourselves constantly because we want to laugh, want to have a good time. And
we laugh all the time.
Yeah.
As he cowers in a corner.
He's fine.
He's rocking back and forth.
He's like, I'm managing too many crews. I'm like, this coffee's warm.
So
why isn't the rig up yet?
So we're what? We're in the early 2000s at this point.
Yeah.
So what was kind of how long have you been with Luke? I know you guys have been together on Luke for about 10 years. How long have you been with Luke?
I started with him in 2012.
Okay. So what was that interim period, kind of 2002, 3 to you getting to Luke? What was that kind of journey like?
It was like medium security prison. About 5 years of it. It was a lot of trial and error. There was some times, there was a period, and right after I left that theater show, which was called Spirit of the Dance, it was like an Irish dance show. It was like I don't want to say it was a knockoff, but it was a total knockoff of Riverdance. It was like a B-market version, right? And after that happened, and I went after that, I did a tour with Brian McKnight, which was kind of cool. It was my first like experience running lights with a band on stage and like an artist like performing it. So really cool.
Well, and this would have been. It was still towards the beginning of his kind of high point, right?
Like, I guess so.
Coming down off of it.
I felt like he was doing pretty good at the time. I mean, I wasn't really in tune with like his record sales, or it's not like, you know, I wasn't at all involved in the business side of things. But then when that ended, I was living in New Jersey at the time. I was living at the beach. I would go home. I didn't have a place of my own, so I'd just go rent weeklies. And just spent all the money I spent touring or made touring just trying to live at the beach. But I got a call from a friend of mine to go do a circus called the Universe Soul Circus, which is a legit circus in a tent.
I remember that.
It was a big, very light rig. It was cool. It was huge, but you're literally working in a circus in a tent in the summertime in mall parking lots across America. And it was attrition. At first, it was really cool. Towards the end of it, I needed out of there so badly that I nearly quit the gig. I almost quit production in general.
The industry in general.
Yeah, my dad had retired at that point. He has his own consulting business. He worked in kind of the food service industry once he retired from the government. And he had a client that was trying to get into, they're manufacturing like dried meats, and they're trying to get in like selling beef jerky and trying to distribute this line of beef jerky. And he actually took me to a meeting with this company and sat down at a table, and they were like, so what's your experience in sales? I was like, I got none. I do lights. I just got off a circus. And it was not the greatest sales pitch ever. I didn't get the job.
Tell us about your dry meat sales.
It's like, but it's beef jerky. How hard can this be to sell? Right? Hey, truck stuff.
It sells itself.
It sells itself, right? I mean,
it's amazing.
A little startup company called Jack Links, I think it's called.
Oh.
No, I'm just joking.
They failed. Too big to fail.
But what was the question?
What happened?
You were kind of on your journey to Luke.
Yeah. Journey to Luke.
So that failed. Obviously, I didn't do that. And then I worked with this guy on the circus, a very dear friend of mine, Heath Marinan, out of Omaha. He works with not TMS, not TL.
Oh.
Yeah, in Omaha. And he came up through the Dave Matthews world, and I was a big Dave Matthews fan. So when I first met him, it was very much like, oh, wow, you're cool. You've done like big shows and stuff. Yeah. And he had just finished up with that. But he is a great programmer. And he really kind of, he came in, we had a catalyst system on the circus with the big projectors and moving head mirror.
Oh, the
thing.
orbital head system. Yeah. Oh, wow.
And so it would just had come out. So he had gotten some information from Brad Schiller about it. Yeah. And he was there to program Catalyst. Well, there's two versions of the circus, the East and the West show. So at this point, it was my second year out there. I was just coming out to program it. And he came out to program Catalyst. And we just would sit there. They had no content for anything. So we would literally just sit in a circus tent overnight, kind of programming some stuff, but just laughing, just having a great time. But it was really kind of like programming school for me because it was him and another guy.
Sense a theme here.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah. They really just these two kind of like, minds of the industry just kind of sitting with me and this kid who was like, I'm not even a kid. I just felt like a kid because I didn't know. I don't know what you know. And I would just pick their brains, and I would show me things, or I would just watch, and it's like, oh, okay, I see what you did there. But on that circus, because it was just me out there, essentially, I mean, with this big very late rig, I would just literally sit and just learn how to program. I would start. They wanted the show changed. I was there to kind of change the show. I was called a programmer, but I wasn't really in programming form at all. But I just kind of taught myself just by doing it, just by sitting with this rig and this circus tent.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, and it's the only way not the only way I can learn, but the way I learn is by doing, by touching things and by, that was wrong. Why am I not doing this right? Oh, there it is. Right. Now I know. I don't read manuals well. I don't read anything well. I don't have the attention span. My eyes will be going over words,
right,
thinking of things not involved at all in the room. But anyway, so
we'll circle back to the he can't read thing later.
Yeah, it's a thing. I got plans though. I got plans.
We'll take up a donation.
I can read
We'll
pictures.
put a scroller at the bottom.
Put a ticker in the bottom.
Here's the thing. I'm good with colors and decent timing.
Yeah, you are.
And here we are. Is that the answer to the question? So, short story, very, very long. It just, eventually on that, actually, here you go. Here's a curveball. On that circus, I met a girl who lived in Nashville, and which led to me moving to Nashville.
What year was this? When did you move?
2003.
Okay.
It was my first year here. And then once I moved to Nashville, I started getting hooked up with like some production companies and some tours, and being a youngish LD who was competent and now could program some, just some doors started opening up, some opportunities opened up, and there's one opportunity to another, and just sure, how things snowball in this industry, like in any industry, I'm sure. I was working over at Premier Global, and I did a lot of work with them. In fact, that company was very instrumental to me. I'm a great relationship with those guys still. But they just gave me opportunities to design and to program things that if I was working for bigger companies, I would have been way down on the list. So that kind of expedited my path. But I was over there one time just in their office, and I got a phone call, or Creech, who's one of the account managers over there, came in the room and just threw a piece of paper on the table and goes, "Call this guy, they're looking for an LD."
That's a great Creech impression.
Love him. Hey, Creech, love you, buddy. I was just like,
he's not going to listen to this.
No, nobody is. We sell the views. So...
Thanks, guys.
Hi, Mom. Hi, Dad. So, I mean that with love. I mean, we'll change it.
Obviously.
That loving way of nobody watches your podcast.
We don't even have a podcast, so you guys are lucky.
Yeah, well, you're lucky to be here, is all I'm saying.
It's true.
I don't think they're going to do anything with this.
This is going straight into the cutting floor.
But anyway, so I called, and I got, at the time, it was his last year as an opening act. And the year prior, I had done some programming work with Fenton Williams on the Tim McGraw tour, and Luke Bryan was the opening act.
Okay.
And so I kind of saw firsthand the guy and the act, and I was like, this is definitely trending in the right direction. Right. We had just had our first daughter, Abby Grace, and I was making an attempt to stay home off the road. By the way, not with the girl who I moved to Nashville for. That didn't end well.
Copy.
But we remained friendly. I actually bought a house in the same neighborhood that we lived in, and a year later I met my now wife, and so just to
gotcha.
Dots, not
That's
to
like
confuse-
If nobody's listening to this podcast, why'd you feel
not
the
to
need to
confuse,
qualify all that?
not to confuse the 12 people that would be watching this. By the way, are no longer watching because
They dropped off.
Yeah.
I'll catch
Long-
next
long
week.
ago.
I won't be at all upset if you cut this part out. But so I was trying to stay home, and it wasn't working out. Like, it was just,
Sure.
first of all, the freelance thing sucks. Like, when you don't know where you're working next week, you don't know, and you're just waiting for the phone. You got a gig for life. You shut up.
I'm a freelancer.
Well-
I know, but I mean, like that
Well, I
freelance
mean-
mentality, because like, oh, cool, I got a week this week. I got 10 days in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But there's nothing in March.
Well, I mean, that
And
whole
you're like-
feast or famine thing, everybody says it, but it's true. I mean, it's 100% true.
And you don't know until the phone rings, and then the phone rings, you're like, oh, cool, okay.
Yeah.
But you start getting towards like the end of your schedule, and you're like, I don't have anything lined up. Like, is anything gonna
That's
call
where I
me?
am. We're fine, obviously, but like we're almost the end of this tour,
Right.
and I'm
Yeah.
in like low key panic mode, even though I know next year
Sure,
and there's
something's
things
gonna
lining
pop
up. But
yeah, no, it's.
you know,
So,
I think that's a common thread for everybody.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
having gone through a year of that, the first year of fatherhood, I just thought, I think I want to, like, it sucks, but it's national touring, so we're home every weekend, or
Right.
home every week. We're going on weekends. There's chunks of the year that we're off. It's a salary gig, so I get a check every 2 weeks. I was like, these things now matter to me more than
Yeah.
being the cool programmer guy or being the best in the industry. Like, now I just need to I just need to make money for the next 25 years of my life. And that's to be honest, it's my complete motivation for everything. It's like, I just got to feed my kids. I got to pay for healthcare and school and
Well,
cars.
I think when you're in your 20s, like it's real easy to do the rock star thing. Like, I'm just gonna go
it's gonna be
bounce.
fun.
Yeah, I'm
It's
gonna bounce
party.
around, bust a bus.
I'm going to be the biggest programmer in
Yeah.
the world.
Yeah, right. I'm gonna.
Yep.
Yeah, I want the biggest tours and
And you sit down behind an actual good programmer. And you're like, oh,
Yeah.
you're really good.
Well,
It
good
still
programmers are
happens.
like rock stars. Everybody
Yeah.
wants to be a really
Yeah.
great programmer, but
Well,
there's
and
only a
there's-
handful of them out there.
There's
Yeah.
times where I'm like, oh man, I'm pretty good at this, and then exactly. You sit behind somebody or see something somebody else has done, and you're just like, it's like I'm the biggest hack in the world. Like, why do people hire me? I wouldn't even hire me. Right? There's times, and it's funny because like right now we're at the end of our tour, right? So we've seen this show. We spent a month, Snooch and I, in the annex down in Nashville, putting this thing together and programming it and the content and all that stuff. And we got out of it, and we're like, well, this looks really good. It all came together pretty nicely. By this point in the year, I'm just looking at it like, well, that's a mistake. That sucks.
Right.
I should have gone further
Right.
with that. This is like, what was I even thinking here? This is bad.
But the
And-
thousands of people that see it, they don't see
yeah,
it.
and it's
Yeah,
and it
first
comes
time.
down to, because I'll tell anybody is, when you program a show and you put a show together, I mean, it's literally thousands of just micro decisions, just little tiny nuancey things that you're doing and spending time on, and for someone to either criticize it, right, like out of the gate, you're just like,
Oh,
you have no
it's
idea how
devastating.
yeah.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, they're not all going to be winners. Like,
Sure.
there are some moments like, that's the best thing I've ever done,
Yeah.
and that's immediately followed by the, like, was that in the console when I turned it on? Like,
Yeah.
like it was that just
This is my default
Yeah.
thing that I throw to when I can't.
Is this the
figure out
demo?
anything.
yeah, exactly right. Like, what website I download that from?
And insert ballyhoo.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Oh wow, another ballyhoo with everything blinking. That's such a genius.
Random
Just turn
sine
it-
wave.
Just
Yeah.
turn it all on and point it at the
Yeah.
audience.
Anyway, I'm sorry.
No, so I guess from that, let's we figured out how you got here. So kind of how is Luke, because you were there basically from the beginning, how has that progressed for you in terms of kind of complexity, where Luke started and where you guys have
Yeah.
ended now? What does that look like as far as complexity of show?
I don't know if there's been that much of a change. I mean, things got really big for a while. I mean, like really big. It just kind of progressively got bigger and bigger and bigger, more complex, and with automation. And we went through a phase where like everything was automated.
Sure.
Pyro and everything. There was stuff coming out of the stage and trusses and video walls moving and all this stuff. And then, of course, we kind of overshot the runway on some of those things, and costs got out of control. And then, of course, it's like
the opposite effect.
We need to make things more affordable, like and cost effective. And so then you start kind of dialing in. Okay, well, how can we kind of get the same gags and the same overall production values cheaper,
right?
Less expensive, right, on a weekly basis. So that's like another set of like creative skills you just start to learn and trying to do something different than you did last year. I think that's one of the biggest things is doing essentially the same show every year,
right? But
trying
different.
to change it and make it out different from the previous year, which you can do so much with at a certain point, unless like we don't have the kind of the business model on our touring where we can go out and have all new fixtures this year. We can't have the all new whatever from whoever this year, and then next year have the all new whatever from whoever.
Yeah.
Right. Like we have to make conscious purchasing decisions with the vendors,
sure,
with Elite, and kind of commit to using that gear for years down the road. So you're kind of using the same gear, finding new applications, new design positions, new elements, whatever you can do to try and make it a little bit different. Which is it's tricky because at the end of the day, when they play Country Girl in 2014, it's essentially the same exact way they're playing Country Girl in 2023.
Right. They haven't changed anything, but you've got to change it.
Minor changes, right?
Yeah.
So, it's really easy to get stuck into this is my red song, this is my blue song, this is my green song, right?
Yep.
Like, the content. Oh, we have content for this. We'll just remap it for new screens. But at a certain point, like we and there's a fair bit of that where we will just kind of continue on as much as we can. But we make a very conscious effort to we need to revamp. We need to redo this. We need to, and we've done that through the course of time with bringing in programmers, different programmers. Some stuff I've programmed. A couple of years ago, we switched to the 3, and I actually couldn't find a 3 programmer, so I've kind of jumped back into the programming seat.
And I thought that was a really good show, by the way, because I saw that show. I thought it was great.
And that's why this is my favorite podcast.
Yeah, there you go.
Yes,
I bring it back. Yeah. Now that we have hundreds of listeners, now that we've brought Justin back to our side.
I will put a link on my Facebook page, and literally my 35 friends.
But I think that's a testament, though, like watching that show, and I think the thing that I've seen kind of consistently in your design is depth, and having that depth I think makes a huge difference.
Yeah, one thing just drives me insane is straight trusses.
Yeah,
I'm wired against it, and this year we actually went with straight trusses as a change. Because usually everything's got like a little, literally it's like I go into Vectorworks and I'll throw some trusses in and it's like rotate 15 degrees, right? Oh, 15 doesn't look right. I'm going to try 17.
I don't even know if this is possible,
right?
But it looks good on paper.
Yeah, exactly. So, and then they're like, well, where's the cable bridge? Like,
I don't know. It's your problem.
So right? I guess so then moving that to you, how, since you've been there in this last decade, how has it changed for you on the back end? Because that's primarily where you're at. As you guys have moved through this stuff, technology has changed. How has that kind of affected how you're thinking through the show and how you're executing the show?
For me and everything I touch, it's actually gotten a little more unified. A couple years ago, we switched to more of a VLAN system, fiber backbones and everything, Luminex products.
Which are great, by the way, legitimately. And that helped, what's the best way to say that? That helped me just organize so I don't have to worry about, we have just the MA net and an ART net. Right. Now we have an MA net and an ART net and a streaming ACN net and a comm net and cameras and all these other things in there. And it simplifies things. You just plug into the switch and then, let's say, I don't know, someone comes to me and says, I need to plug a robo in here. I was like, oh, great. Well, let me just assign that port to the video VLAN, and
You just plug it in. You don't have to run a whole nother cable. You know, I mean, our dimmer beaches have become simpler, even though our parameter count is increasing every year, just because these manufacturers are just making more and more capable lights because they can. It's cost effective for them.
So are you essentially putting Luminex switches at all positions at this point?
Yeah. So there's a couple at both dimmer beaches. There's one in front of house. There's one on stage now. There's a couple over by me in Video Village, and then we have switched to the 4-port nodes as well up in trusses. Because again, a lot of these fixtures we have this year, they're just a normal, they're 175 channels each, 180, 200 channels. So one stick of truss is 6 universes. So it's like, well, why run 6 plus spares of hard copper up there? Let's just
run a couple Ethernets.
There we go.
Yeah. No, that's great. I just built a rack for, we just did a row investment.
Yeah.
And so I put a Luminex switch in that. And it's great because now I can section off and have, control of each, because I think the processors kind of need their own network, and then I was able to create a separate network for some other stuff in there.
Or it helps. Like, you don't have to. No one has to do these things. Like,
correct.
If you lay it out correctly, everything can exist on the same network.
It's a lot of thinking, though. It's a lot of pre-planning.
But it's also, if anything has any kind of issue and it throws packets everywhere, it's gonna corrupt the whole thing, and you have to reboot. As far as my job, it has gotten more complex. Just because I came on as the catalyst operator, and then that evolved to we had a spider at the time, so catalyst spider, and then video crew chief, and then we started adding in, the follow me system and the Helix net and things like that as we kind of branch out our technology.
Sure.
And then this last year was my first year being the lighting crew chief as well. So
next year, audio crew chief.
Well, he's taking over the world. He's coming from a job. I see the writing on the wall.
So how has that affected your kind of day to day now on tour? That you're having to watch, you're having to babysit 2 teams at this point. How has that kind of changed your day?
It's not really longer because I would get up anyway in morning walkthrough to make sure, I don't know, house screens and PJ locations and all those are going to be okay. So that's the same, but there's less, like during the back when I was just a video crew chief, I could just sit and wait, lighting will get started, and then, video's ready. Okay, guys, we're going to start dumping video trucks and start that. So now it's just, we're going straight into load in. And it's required me to, I don't want to say trust, but rely on the team more and know that they're making the right decisions, and I'm just there to, if they have a question, say, hey, Snooch, can you get me some hands, or can you come here and take a look at this, or what do you think we should do here? And it's bouncing back between radio channels, honestly, is most of my day.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of having to rely on decentralized leadership at that point, right?
Right.
Like,
having some. It's
guys.
Probably a healthy way, honestly, a healthy leadership, because I shouldn't hover. Like, you shouldn't hover
micromanagement.
Well, and I mean, knowing the guys you have out there, we have
a fantastic crew.
Yeah,
absolutely, on all departments.
Yeah,
we do, and we have low turnover.
I know, because I try to steal them all the time for other stuff.
Yeah.
And they turn
it's
me down.
hard.
They turn me down.
It's hard to steal those guys.
It really is, which I think is a testament to both of y'all.
Well, we have a lot of dirt on everybody. So.
Can you mute him?
Well, I think it's a testament to both of y'all to have such low turnover, and to have a group of guys that are that loyal. Because honest to God, I have tried to steal some of your guys.
We're also the recipients of the same generosity. I mean, it's an amazing camp to work for. It's amazing people to work with. So you just inherently you
do have to maintain that low turnover, though, because there was a period where it was chaotic, and both departments had their little chaoses.
Sure.
And it, because we're out every year. There aren't that many artists that do a full tour every year.
Yeah.
Well, and then you got, you have farm tour on top of it. There's
it's a big year.
Right,
Yeah,
you have a bunch
work.
of stuff going on.
We're in Mexico for a week every year in
Yeah.
Cancun. It kind of starts our year off every year, which is, we just consider it paid in advance for
Right.
farm tour, essentially, which is the end of the year. It's the opposite, which is awesome. It's just attrition. It's like your quality of life suffers for a couple weeks, and everything gets rained on. There's just always the risk of you're going to wake up in the morning and have the worst day of your life.
I was going to say it's like living the worst festival day over and over and over.
And for anybody who doesn't know, it's literally a traveling festival. We carry the stage, the vendors, the fencing, everything.
Everything.
Barricade. I mean, everything.
The only thing we don't carry are the heavy machinery to move things around on site.
Yeah, if you guys have not seen some videos behind stage,
It is.
There's some
it's some wild stuff watching you guys
behind the scenes. But I mean, it's in farm fields, legit farm fields.
Yeah.
So if you've never walked on a farm field, it's very soft. It's almost sand soil, and when it rains, it just becomes quicksand. And if you try and drive a lull or a tractor trailer full of video panels across that field, it just sinks.
Jeez.
And it doesn't take a lot for that to happen. But 20,000 people show up, and they park their cars, and they come in, and they watch a show.
They have a great time.
We do a show, and it's
how many of those do you do? Like, how many different farms are you guys normally hitting per year?
It's 6 now. It used to be 8, 2 weeks, 3 shows.
What's your load in look like on that? How far in advance are you guys loading in to show day, and how many show days are you running per farm?
I mean,
What would you say?
the morning of.
Yeah,
As soon
morning
as
of, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
the last thing off the field at night is the stage. It's I don't know what the brand of it is, but it's
an
pop-up
Apex.
Apex
Yeah.
pop-up stage, 53 footer. And
Probably going to get an email about that. It's not an Apex.
yeah, I know. I'll say,
Stage line.
Tom Wilson. That's the genius behind it all, right?
TV's
there.
Tom Wilson, everybody. You
Yeah,
can't see it.
He
okay,
walked
so
away.
on a farm tour date, we try and, I'm going to explain load in. Sorry. You can just go to sleep.
Should I go?
Yeah, go say hi to Tom.
I'll go to catering.
I am not the first step. Shout out to our stage manager Blake, because he is up at 5:30 and then goes to bed at 2, maybe later. So we get on site, assuming everything goes well. The morning crew comes up. We bring our own stagehands too, by the way. So it's another thing that's unique. Like we have 3 or 4 buses of usually from Nashville, but
so
local.
the upside is these guys kind of know the routine.
Absolutely.
By the second or third show, certainly by the second week, it's nearly autopiloted.
Yeah.
Right.
Kind of is,
Okay, I'm sure that's a tremendous help at that point. At
It
least
really can be.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it is. Absolutely.
Well, especially because some of these places, there's no labor.
Right.
So if they're not there, you have nobody.
Yeah.
So,
So up in the morning, they start construction on the stage. There is an advanced team that comes in and kind of marks out where things will go for that day. So we do have a very small team. I think it's just a handful of people who go out and spray the field and everything, mark the field for fence locations and things like that. So we'll come in. They'll start construction on the stage. Hopefully by say 9 a.m. we're ready to start backing trucks in. And then from there, it's a normal load in. We keep all trucks at the stage. So we do cut down from our tour level. We cut gear and we cut trucks, and sometimes we have to cut labor a little bit. So it is more condensed, but we put a lot of stuff on that stage.
Is it relatively design-wise? Is it a just stripped down version of the tour?
It is. And it's a consideration in the design process for the show is how will this become farm tour?
I got you.
Because there isn't time to go in and reprogram.
Right.
I mean, and even we literally load in the day of the first show, and anybody who's worked a show outside knows you can't focus until it's
showtime.
dark and it's showtime and it's just first show. So
Right.
So the first couple shows are a little bit rougher because we are kind of knocking some stuff in the position. I mean, like with Snooch calibrates follow me in 95 degrees and
I'm
broad
sitting
daylight.
on the floor trying to look up at the light. Like, I think it's hitting the mark.
So there's a bit of a rush for that, but I mean, I'd be willing to bet we probably put in 80%, if not more, of our touring production into this. I mean, we cram in there's only so many beams you can hit. Sure. So we have to get creative with some of that stuff and cutting down sections. but we work with our tour rigger, Eric Smith, and he's really good about knowing the loads and communicating with the roofing company and the weights and all that stuff.
Yeah, because we can't just say this is what we're doing. That has to get approved by the owner of the stage.
Because again, it's on a temporary structure on a field that could be mud.
Yeah.
Right. Like this all has.
Well,
to
I didn't
be
even think
legit.
about that. Having roof weight is one thing, but now you got to take into account the field and what that's actually going to do.
And sometimes this doesn't affect it a ton, but we back our trucks up to it. Like our first show this year, stage right was like a normal truck height, and then the field sloped downward, and I swear it was like 8 feet to the bottom. And so the ramp into the truck was like a 30, 45 degree angle. It was rough.
Yeah. That sucks.
And that was the first show. We had come from a full show, so we had to pack trucks. Actually, we came from Vegas, but we had to pack trucks in an odd way. So like there were double stacked caddies and everything. We're like, well, we got to get it out of here. So we just actually it became easier. We're like, we're just gonna unstack these caddies in the truck because you don't want to push it up that. I'm sorry, but just everyone get around it and we'll just knock it out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Farm Tour. There's a lot of complaints about it, but it is pretty cool.
Well, it's a super cool concept. I mean,
it's really cool, and it's really cool to see that many people come out and just genuinely love life. Like the people that come out to that are not miserable that they're there. They're just totally there to be there, and they love being a part of it, and the misery is a part of it for them. We're not, we're on the opposite side of it. We have the most comfortable existence on Farm Tour, right? Like, I mean, there are days where, I mean, it's the roughest thing ever, but the concept of it's really cool. The benefits are really cool. I mean, it does help some of the farming community, and there's a lot of stuff. But like I said, it's attrition. The hardest thing is trying to figure out where you're going to go to the bathroom every day. I mean, there's facilities, but it's not like being at home.
I know people. I work with people who will not go number 2 the entire week.
You can say poop.
They will not poop.
Well, I mean, that's a dicey environment.
I'm like, how do you do that?
It's my greatest
I cannot
fear.
go a day. I'm sorry. I will sit anywhere.
Yeah,
I don't mind.
Yeah, that's the worst part.
You got to catch it at the morning on festival day. It's like doing.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, because they are
clean. You got to catch it first thing in the morning.
So just because porta potties are fresh daily, so if you can go out in the parking lot, and get one of the parking porta potties, you can use that right away.
I think people
take for granted.
I was gonna say people will watch this and not understand the importance. Like this is a real thing.
I usually
like
just go to bus 7 and poop.
These are the things that you think about when you wake up first thing in the morning.
It's we are lucky to live in a life where you don't have to question where I'm going to poop every day. It is a first world problem.
Yeah,
for sure.
So as we come down to a close, one thing, almost.
I
feel like I talked too long.
You did.
No, man.
It's okay, buddy.
That was great.
Let's start over.
Maybe a little bit.
I don't know if you noticed, but you're the one next to them, and I'm the one over here. I'm the Ed McMahon.
Well, I think the story.
Yes.
I think the story was great. I mean, honestly, if you guys would be willing to do it again, I'd more than.
I was gonna say a part 2 is definitely. In the cards.
I think it's definitely needed.
Yeah.
At some point. No, we'll come back. I need you.
We got to renegotiate our contract.
Yeah, I need you to change your shirts.
We just exchange shirts.
Oh, that would be great.
Okay.
That actually is a good idea right there.
I don't know if I fit.
You fit. Yeah, buddy.
Too kind.
I appreciate you guys coming out. It was great.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. And to
What are you done with the place?
to the 5 people that are going to listen, according to Justin.
I didn't say 5.
It's 12.
12.
12.
Okay.
To be fair.
It's not about numbers, okay? It's not. It's about.
You get college credit for this.
Yeah, I'm getting college credit. That's it. No, I appreciate you guys coming out. It was a lot of fun. I'd really like to have you guys back on, and we can.
Oh yeah.
Talk
Go
about
even deeper.
Talk about some other stuff and get off the rails even harder.
Definitely.
Yeah, that's tough. We live kind of off the rails.
Yeah, I noticed the first 10 minutes of this podcast highlighted that.
Just the text
honest,
chain
really
of
sure
trying to get us lined up for this.
I just stopped when you guys started. I was like, I have nothing to add to this. I'll just let them go.
That's kind of how it goes.
It is comfortable. I'll be honest. I am grateful to have this guy in my life.
I'm
on a
grateful to have him.
professional level, but also on a personal level. He's just an amazing human being. But our sense of humors are so in tune to each other that it's literally that is our like we just operate on this like stupid level of it's funny to us. We don't care who's in the room. And
It's good chemistry.
We'll gravitate towards the people who are laughing at us.
Yeah, it's true.
And we'll focus it to the people who aren't. Right? Like it's just
Maybe next time. We
Maybe
talk
next time,
about that relationship between
the
the creative and the.
Well, to say we didn't even
The
really
labor.
get into any of your worst shows or any
Yeah,
of
we
that
just-
juicy stuff. So we'll have to do that. We'll save that for another time.
Definitely.
well, we talked about Farm Tour.
That's not a word. I don't consider that a worst show.
I'm just joking. It's just it's a stigma for me.
No, we definitely got to go in there.
He's trying
for
to
sure.
wrap us
So when you guys go back on tour again, or on the next show?
We're off this week.
We're gonna be at the Redbird Games.
Yeah.
Come see
And
us.
we're
We'll be signing
closing up, right?
autographs.
Like the last show's coming up.
yeah,
Yeah.
next week after next.
The week after next.
Okay.
The 29th is the last show. The
This is-
29th
This
of
is
October.
our first week off since 4th of July.
Yeah.
And
So you won't be able to catch it this year. But definitely catch it next year.
Yeah, please do, because the Luke Bryan show's fun.
it's a lot of fun.
I will say that
Yeah.
even if you do not like country music, I think Luke is a great showman.
If you like beer and hot girls,
Yeah.
That's the place to be.
Yeah,
place
it
to
works out. No, I
can I
think
say
Luke's-
hot girls?
you can say whatever you want, bud.
No, you can't say hot. You can say like fiery girls.
El Flago.
I mean, from somebody that doesn't, I don't have a huge history of listening to country music. Technically, when I moved to Nashville last year, it was like kind of the first. It's an awesome show. It's an awesome show, for sure. So yeah, guys, thank you for coming out. I appreciate it.
Thanks for putting up with us.
Yeah.
Next time, we definitely got to do a part 2. We'll get that together in the future for sure. Kenny, any last words?
No, I'm just glad we survived this far. I had my doubts, but
Who's this brought to you by? Who's your sponsor?
Elite Multimedia, of course.
Oh, of
Productions.
course. I've heard of
Of
them.
course, yeah.
I was
If you haven't,
really,
you should.
I was really
I'll
hoping to
get-
do a mattress read.
I'll get
What,
you a card.
Yeah. What time is this going to air? This
Channel
Channel 5? What channel?
prime time.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, this will be out in probably 2-3 weeks.
Yeah, just about.
3 weeks.
Okay.
It'll be out.
We'll let you guys know. Awesome. So another episode, everybody. Thanks for watching, and until next time, see you guys soon.
I'm
Stay
awesome.
tuned.
See ya.
Bye.